There's something gut-wrenching about swinging open your fridge door only to find everything inside turning into a soggy, room-temperature mess because the electricity's gone out. And in that exact instant, spotting your neighbor, Evelyn, perched on her deck in her designer tracksuit, pearl necklace, and ever-present notepad, eyeing you like she's just demolished your life's work and is challenging you to pick up the pieces. Evelyn was the kind of woman who slapped her HOA president title onto every email and treated wildflowers in a yard as a capital crime. But this wasn't just a petty squabble, this was outright warfare. Because Evelyn hadn't merely flipped a switch, she dispatched a crew to excavate the earth near my secluded lakeside cottage and sever the buried cable, all under the guise of violating association guidelines. She knew I ran my business remotely, knew I'd secured the proper approvals, knew I'd spot her scheme unfolding. But she also figured I wouldn't explode in fury. No yelling, no threats. Instead, I'd strike back methodically, silently, and with a jolt of pure ingenuity. My self-sufficient retreat hugged the edge of a quiet bay community in upstate New York, exempted from HOA rules thanks to a clause dating back to the 1950s, long before Evelyn and her flock of cookie-cutter conformists swept in. I had my wind turbines, rainwater harvester, biodigester set up, the full eco-independent package. But during a brutal autumn gale in 2022, when high winds shattered a couple of my turbine blades, I'd shelled out for a short-term hookup to the local utility grid through a communal right-of-way. It was nothing fancy, but it was rubber-stamped by the county, endorsed by the old HOA crew, and documented down to the last bolt. Evelyn, though, had grander visions. Freshly elected as chair after the prior one fled to Arizona, probably to escape her relentless nagging, she vowed to revitalize the area. Her term for it, revitalize. And evidently, a fella in a log-sided cottage with a sheep named Muffin and an eco-toilet was the eyesore she couldn't abide. She'd bombarded me with bogus penalties, all unenforceable. Mailed cease and desist notices demanding I dismantle unauthorized features on my own turf. Even hired a land assessor who sheepishly admitted my plot didn't overlap HOA territory by a single inch. So, in her desperate finale, she uprooted my line like an unwelcome vine. I caught the worker in his fluorescent gear, trench dug, shears in hand, fidgeting over a glossy blueprint. He stuttered about orders from MS. Evelyn, and I simply nodded, thanked him for the proof, and retreated indoors. First off, I rigged a massive battery array capable of juicing a small factory, recharging it via my spare turbines. Next, I borrowed a beastly old gasoline rig from my aunt, a relic from the 80s, built like a tank and likely outlawed in half the Northeast. Then, poring over my blueprints, I unearthed a juicy detail. The junction box supplying my temp line and Evelyn's mansion was still municipal property. It had split feeds, and I controlled one port. With some clever rerouting through my shed's piping, I could invert the flow. But I bided my Timino rash moves. Impulsiveness wasn't my style. I held off until Evelyn's spring equinox garden gala in the shared park, decked out with a pavilion, a violinist, and a strict no animals edict that turned Muffin into public enemy number one. She hand-delivered embossed invites door to door. When she reached my stoop with her plastered grin and trusty notepad, she thrust one at me wordlessly. I accepted it, mirrored her smile, and shut the door softly. Come party night, I let the vibe settle in. By 8:15 p.m., cocktails were swirling, the violin sang sweetly, and string lights twinkled like a dreamscape. That's when I triggered it. It began subtly, a dim flicker, a light bulb bursting in Evelyn's bay window. Then the overload hit. The strings blazed supernova bright before winking out like panicked stars. Attendees murmured uneasily. A fire alarm wailed from her depths. Her cooling system gurgled like a dying engine, coughed, and quit. From my deck, nursing iced tea and feigning interest in a thriller I'd carved out for a spyglass, I observed the chaos unfold. In under a minute, Evelyn's whole estate buckled under the raw, unchecked flood from a machine meant for industrial pumps, not fancy gadgets. She bolted indoors, shrieking loud enough to echo across the water. Lights strobed, vents clattered, an upstairs outlet sparked wildly. Guests scattered as if a bomb threat had dropped. And just as the violinist strummed a calming chord, The speaker erupted in a theatrical bang, sending the crowd fleeing like auditors at a tax raid. It was masterful, contained, exact, and utterly untraceable. When firefighters rolled up after the system looped into hysteria, they found zilch, fried wiring, a melted smart hub, a groaning freezer, but no tampering evidence. Since the junction fell under city oversight, it logged as a grid glitch. Evelyn, seething, stormed my deck the next dawn like a wired security guard, hurling accusations of electro-sabotage. Her phrase, I blinked innocently, nodded at Muffin nibbling her prized azaleas, and offered her a sip of off-grid herbal brew. She flushed crimson and stomped off, babbling about lawsuits. Little did she know, that was merely the opener. Mess with my haven, my energy, and my sheep's pride, and you don't get a quick jab, you get the marathon. And I was lacing up. The thrill of vengeance isn't the strike, it's the dread you seed in their mind, the uncertainty of whether it's done or dawning anew. Evelyn paraded the park that morning in her support hose, dialing crisis electricians, screeching at power reps on blast, and hilariously attempting a home invasion claim on the HOA portal. I knew because I'd set up a distant signal booster ages ago and monitored the logs not breaching, just spectating with snacks as she unraveled for all to see. By midweek, her repairs tallied $14,200. HVAC obliterated, breaker panel charred, smart locks glitching to trap her in the study at odd hours. She'd hauled in a tech whiz who, per lakeside whispers from neighbor Susan, called the spike the weirdest anomaly ever. Me? I switched back to pure self-reliance, brewing coffee under my turbines, using my digester loo, basking in tranquil, unharassed volts. But Evelyn ramped up her antics. She convened a crisis HOA session in her boathouse, uninviting me since I wasn't enlisted, but bellowing the docket so loudly folks faked yard work to eavesdrop. I coincidentally pruned my berry bushes for a prime view. She ranted about my combat-level gear and labeled me a blackout hoarder. She waved a scorch protector like a trophy. A few looked baffled. Bold Bob from Plot 15 piped up, "Weren't you the one who snipped his feed first?" She blanked him cold. That's when I sensed victory brewing. When control freaks like her lose the plot, they just amplify the noise. That evening, I slipped to her boundary under moonlit cover, not to wreck, but to plant a token, a neon green gnome in shades, clutching a plaque saying, "Caution, voltage may vary." I spiked it amid her azaleas with a solar glow. Come dawn, she unearthed it and went berserk in her bathrobe, hacking at soil like a fury unleashed. Muffin eyed her from my deck with villainous disdain. By week's close, Evelyn lodged a formal gripe with the county, claiming I ran a rogue energy syndicate ripe for havoc. Her wording: the checker, a guy named Mike in his late 50s, reeking faintly of grill smoke and lubricanthode, vetted me before arrived with Java and a grin toward my spread, then quipped, still dull and compliant, "Want me to break it to her, or we both bail?" I said I'd manage, and did via a snail-mailed note to the board, landing squarely with her. I praised their keen focus on grid stability and announced I'd added a compliant auxiliary converter on my land, open for emergency aid applications from select folks via paperwork. I predicted her frenzy to seize each did. 2 days on, her reply arrived on official letterhead, petitioning for Jenny access in crises, tossing in a $150 community resilience gift. I chuckled till Muffin bolted. I greenlit it with caveats, invited her for a demo, and she appeared, coiffed like armor, faux designer wrap, jotting in a vetting journal. I toured her through the antique rig, detailed its manual ops, stressed it wasn't hardwired but could link via the path with right tools and codes. Handed her a dense, fine-print protocol sheet, including a waiver. User mishaps bear full liability. She bobbed along, clueless, envisioning herself as the bay's power overlord. That day, she summoned another huddle by her dock, proclaiming she'd locked down exclusive backup assets for a preparedness drive. Uninvited again, I observed her next blunder. She botched her own rewiring, roping the same digger who'd axed my line to jury-rig a safeguard. What he fashioned was a raw hookup from her fuse to an ancient dock outlet wires bare, no safeguards. I verified post-departure. If activated to my unit, it'd incinerate her setup. I pondered letting fate roll, but mercy won. Slipped her a follow-up card in the post. Unit unfit for DIY. Ref. Code 712.4.3. She ignored, but summoned a pro days later who sealed it off with hazard tape. I snapped a photo. Even now? Hardly. The ultimate payback bypass surges or nibbled Bloomsit was the unseen blow. It kicked off with a discreet dial to the revenue service. You'd be stunned how fast a HOA despot crumbles when their empire rests on fiscal quicksand. I wasn't gunning for jail time initially, just to shake up. But tipping the IRS hotline on an association running cash-heavy Gallas Sands filings? The dominoes tumbled quicker than anticipated. No fakes, no fibs, just scans of every flyer Evelyn crammed in boxes over 18 months, donation please, and her boastful social snaps of haul totals. The HOA wasn't tax-exempt, unlicensed for collections, 0 forms filed. Yet they'd raked in nearly $21,000 in enhancement dues, funneled to Evelyn's personal PayPal. I didn't foresee agents at dawn. The Fed's grind slow, but audits loomed, and Evelyn, who stashed mail in a door bin, would crack it over supper, wine and grip, and spiral. That future brewed while she battled scorched circuits, terrorizing repair crews with crayon sketches. I'd gone ghost, rerouted paths via woodland trails, shaded windows with camo netting, even muffled muffins tag. Strip a bully's foe, and they devour allies. Evelyn turned on Treasurer Linda, alleging budget sabotage. Linda demanded ledgers. Evelyn stonewalled. For quit the board that week. Leaked chats buzzed. Calls for her ouster. Even her ancient diner rants unearthed where she one-starred a vet clinic for blocking her SUV. Then the IRS missive hit. I didn't witness the unwrap, but clocked the freeze. 1 second pacing her deck in fluffies. Yapping on cell. Next, petrified. Envelope clutched like poison. She vanished indoors, mute. Gossip erupted, audit whispers, lawsuit buzz. One claimed midnight shredding. I fueled none, just tended my greens as my masterstroke finalized. While Evelyn juggled spectral auditors and rebel members, I sealed a pact with the overlooked, original builder Frank, 3 counties away, still holding deeds to common greens, paths, and crucially, the decrepit utility hut by the drainage pond. It sheltered the outdated backup for the pavilion and the master cutoff for HOA power, and they'd never bought it outright. I bid over value for the lot and contents. Didn't crave the hut, craved its innards. Frank, dubbing Evelyn, that hag who litigated my green fence, inked it gleefully. Now I lorded the crisis switch for her whole enclave. No immediate flips, just leverage. Ensured she learned via a bespoke plaque on the barrier, private grounds. Intruders risk shock. Below, grid control node, owned by resident. No name, she knew. Dawn broke. She charged out in gym wear, spied it, and howled like her world imploded. Cops arrived, eyed my docs with Frank's sig and seal, advised her to back off. Petitions flopped, barely 5 signatures, one mistaking it for birdwatching. She faked poise with a harmony brunch on her lawn, lanterns, buffets, a guitarist. She beamed, dished quiches, but her tick betrayed the storm. That's when I capped it, not with chaos, but mercy that'd sting deeper. I deeded the plot to County Eco Preserve, turning it wetland protected, dooming the hut to razing and barring builds forever. Let officials post the alert, glaring orange on the wire. She caught it at first light, her domain eternally diminished. That eve, she materialized on my stoop, quaking with rage. No rap, just stood heaving. It was you, she rasped. Me? I sipped chamomile. I just reside here. She lingered, balled fists, then pivoted, broken, grasping she'd waged battle against one who conquered Sans volume. Tyrants cling to revival illusions. Evelyn burned hers on appeals. I overheard at the zoning hall while extending my harvest permit. She barged in, folder-armed, face taut, demanding halt to a shady transfer by a vigilante neighbor gaming red tape. I pivoted leisurely. Hey, Evelyn. Dig the jargon upgrade. She stiffened. The clerk, wise to her rep, cued her politely. I dawdled out, binning my mug beside her bag. No more words needed. The desk knew her claim was baseless, no footing in easement law. She exited with a denied, beyond scope stamp. Undeterred, she weaponized theatrics. Fake patrols, yard banners screaming, rights for all. spam blasts on green tyranny. Some nodded, most opted out. I viewed via auto shades that sealed at her nearness. A fortnight on, her lights died and knew not my doing. A raccoon chewed attic lines. Utilities flagged fire risk. Killed service till mended. Her slapdash backup choked. I spied her broom bashing the panel by flashlight. Public meltdown ensued. Saturday's snap, HOA meet in Linda's drive. Evelyn tardy, shoes clashing, pastry half gone, notepad drivel packed. She railed on my power despotism, HOA invasion by eco-radicals, even toaster spying. Linda interjected wearily. You're out as chair. Evelyn balked. What? Voted last night. Unanimous. Bob's in. Bob saluted with soda. Per your bylaw Stohouse, Joel, you can be dumped for fun mishaps or solo land plays. I nearly sprayed my drink. Evelyn scanned for backup. Crickets. Even lapdog Denise studied her toes. She ditched the pad, fled. But I knew her lingering hazard. That botched Jenny tie to her fuses, spied via scope, linked to dangling deck lights. Neighborly, I tipped Mike again. He toured Tuesday. I'd the tape and wire Frankenstein, cited violations galore. Cut off mandated, $3,500 slap. She squawked. He jabbed her doodled, super safe setup, smiley face, label. She coughed up, but skipped fixes. Vanished. Car absent, shades drawn. For sale, tilted in turf under her old surname. Bay Buzz dubbed it the Harpy's exit. Movers hauled her bloated sofa. Sign dropped. Lights swayed limp. Tranquility reigned. New board refunded pots. Mended flickering lamps. Even sought my green tips. I molded. That dusk, muffin at feet, stars over the lake. No harangues, just breeze and turbine whir, laced with Evelyn's defeat grimace. Then my line buzzed. Voicemail, anonymous. Mr. Redacted, Agent Harlan, IRS probes. Follow up on your submission. Seems spot on for HOA fiscal fouls. Callback. I grinned. Oh, Evelyn, the saga lingers. You'd assume with Evelyn fleeing in acrid haze and dangling dews, I'd lounge in turbine peace and sheep bliss. Nope, fate served seconds, and I stirred. Agent Harlan wasn't kidding. My packet of flyers, snaps, cash tallies, raffle proofs ignited a probe. Deeper than dreamed. No mere oversight. Evelyn skipped dedicated accounts. All inflows sales, contests, booth fees dumped personal for 3 years. Streamlining. She spun to board, but Harlan pegged embezzlement light. Funds in, spa, and decor out. She laundered brunch bucks into cushions and serums. And since she never axed her title post boot, IRS had her fresh pad cash bought, 2 bays over. Subpoenas unearthed 52 refund, wire sans backups. She'd skimmed half her Rains haul, $10,400. Not mafia level, but federal bait from phony permits. Harlan lauded my docs, especially her self-delivered invites. I offered extras, he queried testimony. Only with sheep and seat. He chuckled, I didn't. Babe bloomed sans her. Linda's blooms revived. Bob blued the mail hub defiantly. Meats turned lemonade chats on pilfering squirrels. Bliss. But Evelyn zapped once more, certified rant, inked sloppy, from afar. Accusations. I waged mind siege, grid bullying. Torched her cred, newsflash. Agents lack it. Peak. Barn psycho with doom toys. Finale. You triumphed, but types like you expose selves. I'll watch. I tucked it under Muffin's trough. She doused it fittingly. Her true close. Thursday morn, fed car at ex-home. Badged woman quizzed Bob, who nodded my way. Not alarmed me moves pristine. Greeted Agent Vargas, IRS crimes, on deck. Not probing me. Timeline clarifications on Evelyn's cash games. Brewed tea, let her treat muffin fruit. She departed with my hoard. Slips, pics, bulletins where Evelyn crowed funding fireworks via trust. Vargas beamed. Meticulous work. Driven, I replied. Fortnight later, charges. 6. Fraud wires, evasion, fund theft, 2 obstruction from fake dates. Arraignment public. I skipped, but her disheveled pics circulated no pearls, no poise. Fallout viral, forums, apps, a spoof vid with Muffin as Freeman voice narrator. Suburban predators. HOA hyenas. Her new digs relist via crisis moves firm. Profiles poofed. Lore lingered in deck yarns. Harlan mailed thanks. My intel linked for regional scams Evelyn in a shady circle swapping dodgy tips like recipes. Offered bounty. I nixed. Upgrade forms. What I craved. Serenitino fence spies. No spite outages. Just hums of content sheep amid turbines. Chimes dancing wild. Evelyn now? Maybe condo plotting mini HOAs. Clipboard band. Scheming in glitter journals. Irrelevant. I didn't crush her with noise, drama, fantasies. I stood firm as she self-destructed, receipts clutched, poise intact while she ignited. Yeah, she axed my juice. But ultimately, I rerouted it all even her. Was my calculated revenge justified, or did I cross into vigilante territory? Should HOA tyrants like Evelyn face harsher laws? Or is community overreach just the price of suburbia? Drop your thoughts below. Did I go too far, or not far enough? Hit like if this tale gripped you. Comment your take to spark the debate, and subscribe for more real-life showdowns that question where justice ends and payback begins.